Hi everyone, Ziad here, and welcome to the first episode of Let's Argue, where I invite you to send me your hot takes and your tough questions for me to respond to in this video. Yes, this is a ripoff of Anthony Fantano's show of the same name, but I'm a video game guy, so let's mosey. Now I'm gonna be reading your tweets on my 3DS because I'm recording this with my phone, and I think it adds to whatever aesthetic I'm going for here. So let's go. Random encounters aren't an inherent flaw, but they're used poorly way more often than not. Hard agree. Random encounters can be very interesting and can be the correct way to design a game, I think. I think Etrian Odyssey would not work without random encounters. I think that's kind of the suspense of it, and the surprise of every enemy encounter is only really there with random encounters. And then also the fact that the normal enemies are random contrasts them from the FOEs. That is one of the best uses of random encounters to me. You have series like Dragon Quest that thrive off of this element of surprise, showing you these huge, fucking gorgeous, detailed monster sprites out of nowhere. If you just take one step to the left, that's a pretty cool element. But in a lot of games, holy fuck, random encounters are goddamn annoying. Final Fantasy VI, for example, frustrated me a lot with this. Like, I thought if the game had half as many encounters, it would be twice as good. Because, yeah, like, it's just compounded. It's very easy for RPG combat. I'm sorry, right? But it's very easy for RPG combat to not be engaging, in my opinion. It's very easy for it to become repetitive and mindless and stale. And, which, to me, yeah, a good action game is gonna have that problem just way less, and then adding random encounters on top of that, it just makes it feel like a hassle. So yeah, random encounters can be very cool, but also can be very, drool. Crono should have been a fighter in Smash instead of most of the Fire Emblem people Cloud in the Dragon Quest boyos. Also, Fire Emblem should be represented by more interesting characters of other classes instead of just lords. Is this a hot take? I think most people agree with this. Well, actually, yeah, no. Actually, yeah, I see where this is a hot take, because saying Chrono over Cloud and DQ Hero, I don't know, man, like, so first of all, I think with Chrono Trigger, the rights situation is kind of complicated. I remember hearing this story that, like, when the DS version of Chrono Trigger came out, Square Enix didn't actually have clearance to make that version, to release that game. There was some involvement. Was it Toei or I don't know, it was some other external company that has some kind of rights to Chrono Trigger. And that's why they never ported it to anything else after that. I think the PC version is the exception because it's derived of the mobile version or something. I don't know, it's complicated. And that's why they crack down so hard on anything Chrono Trigger related, like the fan games and stuff like that. So yeah, that's why Chrono and Smash will probably never happen. I'm sorry to burst your bubble there. But yeah, I think we now have to accept that Smash is more of a celebration of gaming in general and less Nintendo specifically. And that's why Cloud is in, because he's the most iconic Final Fantasy character. Yeah, and it's the same logic with Joker and Snake and Sonic. Like in Brawl, nobody said this. In the Brawl days, nobody was like, oh, Snake is not a Nintendo character. And yes, I'm aware we had the shitty NES ports of Metal Gear 1, and we had Snake's Revenge. As far as, and we had Twin Snakes, I guess. But that's not what I mean, right? It's not just, oh, he had one random game on a Nintendo console. No, he's just, you don't identify him as a Nintendo character. It doesn't matter if he had a random game on a Nintendo console, but he's still in Smash because he's iconic, and, it's more a general thing. And with Cloud, it's the same way. And DQ has a very strong history on Nintendo, and it's very iconic, and it was a huge deal when it came out of Japan. The announcement for Dragon Quest Hero and Smash. So in that sense, I can't really agree that Chrono should have been in there over those characters necessarily. There is way too many fucking Fire Emblem characters. I think most people agree with that. I think that's the cold take. And yes, too many of them have blue hair, and too many of them are lords. they're all just lords, right? There's not a single other class in Smash. That's nuts. What the fuck? Final Fantasy VII is the most overrated game of all time. This comment is not well-intentioned, not very thoughtful, but I'm actually gonna humor you and say that, if you compare FF7 to other games in its echelon, like Half-Life, like Metal Gear Solid, like Ocarina of Time, all games that pushed boundaries and came out around the same time, I'd actually say, but among those, FF7 is very conservative. Even in its own series, it takes very few game design risks. It doesn't really experiment with its structure or with its mechanics very much. Compared to FF5 with the job system, how crazy it is. FF6 with the World of Ruin, and how open-ended and weird the mechanics are, and how it constantly changes the structure to suit the story. Think about FF8 with all the weird-ass mechanics that game uses. FF12 with the Gambit system. Final Fantasy, it is the quintessential AAA RPG, but every game is so, like most of the games, are so experimental, and they take so many risks, generally. And that's kind of what draws people to that series in the first place. And I think you can make a solid argument that FF7 is one of the games in that series that experiments the least. Like, it's very much just you follow a linear story, and yes, you have pockets where you can explore freely, but that's what it is, right? It's just a little bit of exploration, It's not like, oh, the game is just completely non-linear now, all of a sudden. It's nothing crazy like that. And then the mechanics, are very reined in compared to 6, for example. So, if that's what you mean, I don't know if that's what you mean, but that way I could see it, what you're talking about in terms of overrated, right? That it doesn't really do anything to deserve its status. However, it just is a really solid game, in my opinion. I like it more than 6. It takes, like I said, 6 is a way more ambitious and impressive game to me, but personally 7 is way more consistent and way more fun. And way more engaging. I respect 6 a lot, but 7 appeals to me way more. And then also, yes, the game design doesn't take any risks, or a lot of risks, maybe that's a little bit hyperbolic, but the storytelling and the presentation, very gutsy and very forward-thinking for the time. See, people are gonna experience those things for the first time now, soon, so I'm not gonna talk about the specifics, right? This is not an apt comparison, because I do think, so a series like Evangelion, extremely risk-taking, extremely forward-thinking, but also I think I would compare it to Final Fantasy VII in that they just had this huge cultural aesthetic impact. Like, the aesthetic of Evangelion, and the same thing with FF7, has just been so enduring and so impactful for so many people in that time, and to this day. Like, you can't undersell that, I think. I think the game just, on its quality and on its own merits, backs up its reputation. Maybe it's not, again, the most earth-shattering game design achievement. Like, again, it's pre-rendered backgrounds, it's pretty ugly character models, it's very linear, but it does everything it does, in my opinion, so well. It doesn't really, maybe, sticking to the book and doing what works, but doing it really well, that ends up often just holding up better, Yeah, like I said, FF6 to me had a lot of rough edges and annoying things, and with 7 that's not as much the case. So no, I don't think FF7 is overrated at all. The Chrono Trigger / Cross games should have led into more derivative titles across the last 2 decades. Is this a hot take? I think most people would agree with this. I will say that I do remember, a couple of years ago, people were hella down on Chrono Cross. I didn't play Chrono Cross. I'm gonna play it at some point. I have played all of Chrono Trigger. But yeah, I remember Chrono Cross being kind of a controversial title, and these days it's very beloved, I feel. These days people are pretty cool with it, plus I know a bunch of people who think it's even better than Chrono Trigger. So I think this is a cool take, right? And so I mentioned the whole rights situation before, right? With Smash. So that could be a factor, but also, maybe it's just that the initial response to Cross made Square reticent to, go further in that direction. Like, because Chrono Trigger, it seems like such an easy thing to milk. It's so confusing why there hasn't been more Chrono Trigger stuff. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, personally, I gotta be honest, I'm not a big fan of Chrono Trigger. I finished the whole game. I have my problems with it. But yeah, still, I mean, like, it's a cool IP, and it's weird there hasn't been more. Yeah. I don't know where this tweet has gone. Someone replied to the tweet where I asked for your submissions, saying that Ocarina of Time is a bad game. Every part of its gameplay is fundamentally and deeply flawed. I think I'm quoting them pretty literally right now. And this I can't find this tweet anymore. Maybe they realized how wrong it was and then they deleted it, because I hard disagree. What does that even, like, when you're like coming on so strong, then I think you should elaborate more and like be more specific with your opinion. Like, newsflash, the game design and the mechanics of Ocarina of Time can't be that flawed when they literally use them for at least like another 13 years, you know, after Ocarina came out. Like, they did not abandon this core gameplay engine until after Skyward Sword, which came in 2011. So like, even just based on that is an insane statement to me. And like, you can personally think, like, I don't know what about it. Like, the fact that it's a game from 1998 on this weird ass console with weird graphical hardware and like a weird controller. The fact you can hand people Ocarina of Time and they will not think it's that weird. You can hand a normie Ocarina of Time who's never played it, and they will be okay with it. They will be able to play the game. There are not a lot of games that you could say that about that are as old as Ocarina. Now, I'm not saying that makes a game good or bad, right? Like people say Metal Gear Solid 1 is unplayable now, and that frustrates me to hell and back. I'm not saying Metal Gear Solid is worse because it's less inviting, you know, to a normie. But still, that is remarkable that the game has held up as well, just at its core, you know, as well as it did. And that it was so forward-thinking, and that it set so many standards. Like, it can't be that flawed when literally every other game took after it. And you can think maybe, I don't know, that the structure is boring, or you don't like I think the dungeons are still amazing. I think the atmosphere of it is still amazing. I think the puzzles and just the core loop of it is so engaging and so fun. Ocarina of Time, masterpiece, 10 out of 10. Respect the greats, don't at me. The Last of Us is an awful game and wouldn't work as a good movie either. Hard disagree. I think The Last of Us is great. I can see where people are getting at when they say, oh, this game wouldn't work as a movie either. But like, it's not saying anything about the quality of the game to me. Because writing needs to be good for the game. By that, I don't mean it needs to be good by video game standards. I mean, it needs to serve the game. It needs to serve the larger purpose of what the game is going for. Devil May Cry 1 has perfect writing for what it is, right? It motivates you to go on this adventure. That's it. That's all you need. If it were any more complicated than it is, it would probably take away from what the game is trying to do, right? So it's perfect. It's like schlocky and cheesy and badly acted, but like, it's perfect for what the game is, you know? It doesn't need anything else. And with how does Devil May Cry for the PlayStation 2 relate back to The Last of Us? Well, I'm glad you asked. You could argue, yes, The Last of Us story maybe is like simplistic by zombie movie standards or something, and like it's been done before or whatever. But like, in the context of the game, of making you care about these two characters and their journey, I think it just works. It really, like, the interactions between Joel and Ellie and the way they have to go through these situations and the tension between them in the cutscenes and all that, it really sold me on the world. It sold me on the characters, and it made every single moment in the game, every single fight, every single tense encounter more impactful. And that's why, like, as a movie, yeah, I probably wouldn't watch it, right? It probably wouldn't be that interesting or remarkable. But that's asking yourself that question is not a valuable thing. It's not. It doesn't really make sense to try to look at games that way, right? To even try to judge them by movie standards, because it's not about standards. It's about just what works good for the medium or for what the game is trying to do. And then, like, I've seen so many people say that the mechanics of The Last of Us are bad or clunky or undercooked or repetitive or whatever. I don't agree with that at all. Like obviously it is slow, right? You're playing a slow old man, but there was never a point where the game didn't feel balanced around that, and where it didn't feel like it had intent and purpose behind it. Like the way, like even just the weapon sway felt very meaningful and felt like it enhanced the game and the experience. And like I made a tweet about this a while back, saying The Last of Us is a game where you can pick up a brick off of the ground, a fucking brick, and you can do at least like 5 completely different things with it that are all valuable and that can all build on each other and can be built on top of. So like there are meaningful things that can happen after that. Like I can just kill one guy instantly. I can distract another guy. I can throw it at a guy and set him up for a grab, so I can use him as a human shield. And then when I do any of those 3 things, that leads into a million more things. Like, that is good game design. So I don't understand. Like, it's so easy to say, oh, the game is just a generic third-person shooter. You're making it so easy on yourself. And like, obviously, Mark, you did say that in your tweet. You just said it was an awful game. I'm just going off of what I heard from other people, and I don't get it. I don't get how it's supposed to be a generic, repetitive third-person shooter. I think it's really tense. I think it's very well made, well crafted. The level design is very interesting. The weapons are well balanced in interesting ways. The enemy AI, not as good as they showed in that first demo. It was very disappointing that it didn't really deliver on that. I hope the sequel, improves on that or delivers on that aspect. But it's still very challenging and very cool and very interesting. I don't agree with this take. Also, people always think I'm an edgy contrarian, right? On this episode, I defended The Last of Us, Final Fantasy VII, and Ocarina of Time. So there you go. I'm not an edgy contrarian. Persona 4 is vastly superior to 3 and probably 5 too. Hard agree, personally. I said in my Nocturne video that I'm gonna make one on Persona 3 in the same style, explaining why I don't like it. So I'm gonna save my points for that, but like, the gist is that with Persona 3, they figured out this new formula. They came up with this whole calendar system, and it was very novel. But I think it just has so many niggling issues and things that don't make sense and things that kind of clash. And with Persona 4, to me, it's really where it came into its own. It's really where they figured everything out perfectly, where the overarching plot matched the structure really well, and the structure itself was figured out completely. Like, it was really engaging, really fun, and really addictive. And then with 5, they tried to make it even better, but in the process, they just went fucking overboard, in my opinion. They went way too far in Persona 4's direction, while also trying to incorporate elements from 3. So 4, to me, strikes the perfect balance between those 2 games. And Inaba is just the comfiest fucking setting of all time. Persona 4 is such a comfy, pleasant game. People who hate on Persona 4 are such edgelords. Don't at me. So that was the first episode of Let's Argue. Let me know what you thought. I don't know how often I'm gonna do this. Again, I don't want to just flood you with this and then not do any real content anymore. But you can expect tweets asking for your hot takes, maybe like once a month at the very least. Yeah, that's probably a good idea, because I got a lot of submissions on the first one. So yeah, hope you enjoyed. Please consider supporting me on patreon.com/WonderMagenta. It helps me out a lot. That way you may even give me the ability to do scripted videos more frequently, to do different kinds of videos, to let me buy new equipment, stuff like that. And you get a lot of bonus content as well. You get at least 2 extra videos every month, unscripted discussion videos that are very cool and interesting and sexy. Yeah. Bye bye.